last game of the last chance qualifiers here for Uncharted Realms in North America, and we get a mixed first carousel here. We're going to ride along with Sag, who is in second place with 27 points, I believe tied actually with Weijin Iverson, starting with the belt.
Okay, belt, pretty generic. More important than ever, you have to think about every single shop and item combination that you can think about. Whether or not he took it because he's comfortable with belt, whether he missed his first item, whether or not he is simply just picking it for the Ezreal. We'll see. Starts off with an opportunity for a Sunfire Cape. Now, here's definitely a question that becomes very interesting, because do you take more risks, or are you going to be risk averse because you want to simply try to play for a nice top 3? And it kind of depends on where you are in the standings. For a player like Lucky, who's at 23 and 4 points behind, needs to be taking that risk. For Sag, the player that we have right in front of us, tied for first right now at 27 with Weijin Iverson, could take a little bit of less risk, but if you go for a safe top 4, people could leapfrog you, so you kind of want to aim for that top 3, top 2. That's what makes all these openers so interesting. And then the question becomes, what happens if things like Prismatics or an all force of nature carousel appears on stage 5? These kinds of dynamics are just going to add so much intensity to the game.
Well, and to be real with everyone, too, Weijin's only in the spot because of those bonus points coming in from yesterday. We're in our 6th lobby, and those 3 extra bonus points has given Weijin the opportunity to control their own destiny, and I would rather be in that position than any other position in the game. But you're totally right. For some reason, players in this position, especially inexperienced tournament players, will go ham for a first place and then bottom out in 8th and then completely miss it as another champion duplicator comes through, and any extra resource that you will have on your board if you're Sag is going to give you another opportunity later in the game to get a higher spot like that top 2. Because again, I'm going to say it one more time, Sag and Weijin Iverson, if they finish in the top 2, these spots are theirs.
Pretty solid option. Sunfire board with a Lagoon start allows you to play for the traditional Lagoon board. What I mean is, but you play Soam, you play Neela, you try to use that economic resource that you get just from the Lagoon rewards at that high score to be able to feel it, and you don't need Morello whatsoever. On the other side, if you pick Beast, then it's just a very strong army. There's a reason why it got nerfed. And Sag also has components for Sunfire Cape already, so that could be the reason why he was leaning away from it. And yes, he does have the Shapeshifter Gnar on the bench at the moment, but he's utilizing Lagoon to charge his economy and get started. On the other side of things, Appy's with a Yone pair, and we know that Mirage is duelist dexterity, which seems to be the most common that we've had today. Very strong opportunity for Yone reroll, and what a dynamic it would be if Appy's is somehow able to muster a first place back-to-back to wrap up, similar to what he was doing yesterday, and kind of give less points available for everybody else. He is a very, very good opening.
Yeah, and Spicy Appies is exactly the kind of player that could do that. Remember, any points Appies gets is stolen from anyone who he finishes ahead of, right? And that will affect people like Weijin, who we're riding along with right now. It says first place there, but is tied at 27 points with Sag. And we have a Mana Zane Kaisa here, and that is exactly the kind of comp you do want to run here. I think Graves' Lawnmower would work well in this position for Weijin, but where are we going to go? We know that Kaisa can win those lobbies, can win those games, especially with this item.
Yeah, Mana Zane is definitely an item that I think a lot of people still have trouble figuring out outside of dragons. Like, people love putting Mana Zane on some of those AP dragons. I'm talking about like Aurelion Soul. I've seen people put it on Namzi. Obviously Aushin if you can able to get Mana Zane to cast. So a little bit of an awkward situation, but Weijin Iverson's probably just thinking about taking it slow, right? It kind of depends on how the game pans out. He already has a Kaisa pair. Apparently he is the Kaisa Whisperer. And he wants to see if he can lean into the Kaisa to maybe go for 3-star. It is a very consistent way to play. And Weijin Iverson, again, comes in as the point leader tied with Sag. So if he gets a second, he is guaranteed to go in because no one can leapfrog him this piece up. So he wants to be playing a dominant strategy. He's in a great spot.
And it's going to be early dominant, too, because the way that worked, at least from my observation, was those first 3 casts were faster when the follow-up casts would be slower than some other mana-based items. So in the early game, when HP isn't as high, those first initial casts with some damage, with one last damage item, might be enough to make it through a lot of stage 4, and then think about how we're going to use the Kaisa a little bit later, as well as we also have a duelist dexterity now on Ezreal, and That is a unit that really loves attack speed, and if you're able to get some AP, we have been seeing Ezreal's absolutely destroy dragons with just 2 Mystic shots.
Yeah, I mean, well, Ezreal is not going to do that anytime soon, just because I don't really think people are hitting those dragons quite yet. But they have stuff that's really powerful. Appies, for example, does have this 2-star Yone that he eventually did hit, but thanks to the Sunfire Cape and a resilient frontline, Lucky with a level 5, able to get that win and decisively continue his win streak over Spicy Appies, who I don't think had a really strong level 5 and was probably hoping he wouldn't queue into Lucky. A little bit unfortunate there for Appies.
All right, taking a gander where everyone is right now. Usually at this point in time, a lot of things can still change, but when a game is as important as this one, every bit of resource matters, and that includes HP. You want if you were going for first pick in Carousel, 88 is actually a very nice HP total to have. 76 is all right too. Everyone else a little bit higher than that, but Sag looking to climb back up. Every time Sag loses, that's one less opportunity to potentially stabilize against someone ahead of them in the standings in this particular lobby because they are in second. Looking around right now, we see the augments on the side, and we have some Rage Wings here. Not a lot of sets, just in general today. This is an obvious opener, probably for something else, as we do have the Volibear putting in right now.
The Shimmer item is going to be Determined Investor. So after 8 deaths, you're going to get a lot of gold and a champion duplicator. This is a really strong one to play around. And the fact that Sully's able to get early, it's a really big deal because now Sully with Rich Get Richer and the idea that he wants to go for a fast 9 strategy, if possible, Sully can play around Itis and Diamond Hands, and Diamond Hands is one of the highest win rate items in the game, if not the straight up highest win rate item. And so you can get it early. So after 8 rounds, which is basically the end of stage 3 by Wolves, he should have this Diamond Hands ready to go for the 4-1 roll down. It couldn't have come at a better moment.
Unfortunately, I have seen some accidental throws when it comes to the Diamond Hands where the person that they put it on doesn't die, and having one extra round can be absolutely brutal, but we work out here. That's why sometimes players will wait until a unit is almost dead and then slap that item right on there to guarantee a stack. But something that you mentioned that we all have to remember is the Rich Get Richer along with the Diamond Hands and the Itis, because we saw Itis with Diamond Hands destroy a lobby a little earlier today. So in 8 rounds, we might be already pushing a very high economy and high probability of a very strong comp on the board. As we move over to Lucky here, 6th place, 23 points, not out of the running yet, just 4 points behind, needs to finish 3 points ahead of Sag, and Wasian. So that's a first versus a bot 4 for the other two, so Lucky still in the running.
Yeah, Zippy, looks a little bit kind of awkward in the sense that you play an early Zippy and you're just playing 4 units despite Lucky streaking, but Zippy with Sunfire Cape is very, very strong. And Lucky has an upgrade Ezreal and a Leona to make sure that the support around Zippy is really good. I think when you play like a 1-star Zippy on an all 1-star board, not as high impact, but given the context of it, 1-star Zippy, when played correctly in the right spot, can make a huge impact. Now that being said, Sad finally started turning the corner, has got the Beast Den in, all this attack speed is just a little bit too much, and now has lost his win streak, which is a really big deal. And Wasian Iverson is the only person streaking at the end of stage 2, which has huge implications for his economy moving forward because he gets to get double the interest bonus.
That is an enormous benefit for Wasian. I mean, good on Wasian to know exactly where they are. Remember, control of their own destiny, to not let those nerves take advantage of potentially bad play, because we are win streaking, and any resource, again, that gives us a better opportunity is where we want to go. Renzer, though, probably our most flexible player of the weekend, probably a little bit of a fan favorite at this point at 25 points, is the line right now. 3rd place does not make it into the regional. So we also have some attack speed. This is looking like a potential Graves comp, especially with the Seraphine on the board, but again, anything can happen. We're still very early and they're all tier 1.
I think you're entirely right. I think it is going to be a Bulldozer Seraphine Graves composition that emphasizes on the Mystics. I think with the trade sector, it does mean that he's going to be down a combat augment, which is going to be very relevant. The part of the reason what makes that composition so strong is that you have really strong combat augments. But for Renzer, maybe that's what he believes, that it's good enough from his spot. And maybe because he feels like he's declaring it effectively, anybody scouting him will know that's what he's going for. He might be able to play uncontested. And that's the kind of dynamics that goes into this lobby. Are you willing to play contested? Or if there's other people who are showing the same kind of comp as you, will you pivot?
That has actually been, I think, one of those turning points for a lot of our players here is how they have responded to being contested, because it's been all around the board so far. So at this point, the Kai'Sa with those very, very early ultimates with that Mana Zane is getting those front lines down really quickly. I'm gonna start getting concerned, especially if this isn't a Kai'Sa 3 by like stage 4-4, 4-5, that Mana Zane might not be enough, because we need like 7-8 ultimates at the end of the day. Shogun's would be okay as well to help us get there. 2 people on fire, and you know who they are? The 2 people in first and second place, and a prismatic augment to top it all off.
High Roller is really interesting only because you want to try to chase that 3-star Kai'Sa, but you know, with so many Lagoon and Dragonmancer units at the cheap tier, or rather the lower levels, it becomes really difficult to guarantee it. So he does end up going for High Roller. This is a situation where he might even roll. He has opportunity. He has 2 things. He can roll and try and see if he can position himself, or he can slow roll. But it does seem like he's going to commit to this Kai'Sa for this. And this is everything on the line. The most important unit is set, I believe, at 6 for 40% odds, which is very strong if he can get to it. But what is Agent Iverson going to do? He's going to see the Shimmer. He's going to stop here and try to build up that determined investor, which is going to encourage him to keep Shimmer into that late game and potentially have a very strong front line.
Oh, man, it is tense on the Convergence right now. And something I want to bring back that you said, Dan, people take risks when they're in the lead sometimes, and this is one of those potential risks that we're taking because we've committed, right? We went with the loaded dice. We had the portable forge on the Kai'Sa already, and these are pretty good items for it as well, or could become good items for it, especially with that Giant Slayer. Again, that's going to be 3 ultimates immediately pretty much after the fight starts, and we're already ahead of the curve in terms of dealing with the strong dragons like the Idases and even the Siphons and Shi-Oyus that are going to be affected by this Dragon Slayer.
Wage and Iverson is in such a good spot. Ranger does have Mystic Soul, which, I mean, is actually very quietly one of the better augments that you can get if you expect a lot of AP in the lobby, which I think everybody does. We'll see whether or not he's able to stabilize later on. But you do see some people holding onto the Kai'Sa. Some people might be wondering, why not just find a set, go for that Kai'Sa 3 before other people are able to hit? But, you know, that's a question for Wage and Iverson, depending on what he wants to do with those loaded dice. Because theoretically, he could also not be going for Kai'Sa, instead be using High Roller for something else.
Yeah, interesting choice here. Binary Airdrop second onto this board as well. So that's going to give an opportunity to get potentially more action on the Beast Den. Plus, this is one of the best late game augments in the entire game, but you're not actually going to get as much value out of it on these particular rounds. So that's going to get stronger as the game gets a little bit later. And we have another scoped weapons comp as well. And it's going to be Spicy Appies, who is trying his darndest to be the biggest spoiler of LCQ.
I mean, Appies has almost a god combination for that composition. He's able to get the scoped weapons for that infinite rage. He did build RFC, so a little bit awkward there, but that's okay. At least maybe Jaxes won't be trolling you because you can't dodge anymore. And he's also has a fully upgraded board. Appies is very much in contention to be a top finisher in this lobby, which is just going to put everyone else under notice. Sanchez has lost his streak, and Wage and Iverson moves forward. Right now, win share percentage-wise, Wage and Iverson is the leading candidate to join us at regionals, but who else will?
It is not guaranteed whatsoever. As of right now, if you're looking at percentages, if you're a betting person, Wajan is definitely in a very good spot. Sag in an okay spot, but look at how much closer it is after first place. Every single choice from here on out is going to affect where these placements are. Yes, that's how TFT works, but when you're in a high-pressure situation like this, you can do many different things on accident, as we do have the red buff coming through. So that's going to make sure that we have some healing mitigation. But as of right now, Sully, who is in contention, needs to find even more power. But that power will come once that determined investor pops.
Well, Sully has some of the highest cap in the game. Wage Iverson hits Kai'Sa 3, by the way, with his high roller. Okay. So it did end up using the dice. I mean, we kind of anticipated that. Sully has some of the highest cap in the game, though, available to him in the form of Dragon Soul. So with this combination, it's very clear what Sully's going to do. He's going to try to fast 9, get 6 dragons in, ascend the dragons. That is something that's recent, the previous patches, where you add a bunch of stats to every dragon onto the board. And if you can 2-star it, it is actually the strongest comp in the game. You can't actually really beat it. The only way you can do it is some unreasonable amount of like 3 stars, 4
like a
cost carry, 3-star
Soraka,
dragon. Yeah, exactly. Something that can really stop it. But in terms of pound for pound 2-star boards across your entire composition, nothing can beat 6 dragons.
Well, and this is a little bit of about a big butt, if you will, but 8th place in the last game was a Dragon Ascended comp, but it wasn't the 2-star, so we could potentially get there, and we have the money to do it, right? You're sitting at 80 gold at level 6. We're going to get our 3-cost dragons here, or really the Siphons and the Shious, to potentially bring us to the late game, but we also have Determined Investor, so we could play coy and sack even a little bit longer, because something that a lot of high-level players are able to do is kind of ignore where they are in the current standings and play from where they're at, and the Determined Investor is a really great pivot point for a player to say, all right, now I've got to win, right? I've got the resources to do it. This is my pivot point, and if I don't do it here, it's going to be bad news. So in a couple rounds, Sully is going to have to make that decision.
Yep. And at Wolves, we'll be finishing that Determined Investor, just hoping to take minimal losses. Sully actually wants to lose this fight for maximum econ, but also doesn't want to take 6 units on the back end, and that's going to be huge blowback the other way. Sully takes damage down to 40. That is very uncomfortable, and Sully's going for an all-or-nothing type of play. I respect it. Will it pay off? As we check in with the other Loose Streak players, Soul Reaver taking heavy losses with Astrals, and Soul Reaver also with the Cluttered Mind going for that Fast 9 strategy, but his board is looking very weak. I don't know what's going to happen here because clearly the Loose Streak players have a game plan. I think the only person that's kind of in limbo right now is Tricky, but Tricky is not in contention. So if Tricky goes for a bot finish, that actually helps everybody else in the lobby. What's going to actually happen here is we're going to go for an explosive stage 4, and more importantly, what's going to be a last augment for everybody gearing up into this explosive finish?
Okay, so the Legendary Orb actually gives out gold, so that was probably going to be units. 70 gold to start this round. One more round for the last augment, and everyone has a prismatic augment, so at the end of the game, when we kind of review these, everyone who went High Roller, for example, right? Let's see if that lack of an augment in the late game is going to matter. The Champion Duplicator here still for Sully. Are we going to use it on a dragon? We're frontlining that Karma. We have some 5 costs showing up in these shops. It is level 8. And we have Dragon Alliance and Diamond Hands. So we have gotten stronger. There's still a lot of tier 1 units here, but that Nunu is definitely going to be tanky.
This is a massive deal of what we just watched. Sully rolled all his gold. He's not going to be able to go to 9 unless he either hits an augment that lets him or he's able to streak from here. And that's the intention. He recognizes if I try to just fast 9, real likelihood that I just die and I'm not able to get it done. In fact, look, he rolled all his gold, and the fight still is going the other way. So the fact that Sully was rolling down all of his gold and is not able to decisively win here, and in fact loses, is such a big deal. I think we may be witnessing the end of Sully's run if he's not able to turn around as soon as the next turn. He has one last chance to really put this together.
Running out of time. The time is ticking. Doomsday approaching for Sully right now. We got 2 more dragons, though, for Sully. We want to get to those Ascended dragons as fast as possible at this point in time, but we spent that gold, Frodan, and so now hopefully things like Terra, things like these tanks are going to be able to get us even more gold. We have the Duplicator to save, at least the gold for a unit, but we're getting the dragons that we need. We still need that Ao Shin. We still need to level up, I think, one more. No, we're at level 8. We have the 9. We can level up again for the dragon. So there's still possibilities here, but we're actually pretty far away from locking the Exodia type of this, and at 29 HP, it's going to be tough.
I mean, Sully was just hoping to hit a 2-star dragon and use the Duplicator. His strategy was oriented completely around whether or not he can get a pair of Brilliant Soul, Ao Shin, almost there. His Diamond Hands has to evaluate who he's going to go on. It's likely going to go on Aesol here, just because he needs to make sure that he can continue to scale. One against Soul Reaver, who still has full gold, still trying to greed for a fast 9, but it has to be concerning when you're Soul Reaver and you're seeing your opponents already pulling out that Aurelion Soul, pulling out things like that Terra. It's just going to be less dragons available to him if his opponent just hits it, and we've seen some miraculous level 8 2-star dragon boards. And here's another thing about Dragon Soul, as Soul Reaver takes critical damage, it still kind of counts like a force of nature in some ways, because it just gives you that extra dragon slot anyways for very cheap. So maybe somehow Soul Reaver can pull his back way, but Soul Reaver takes critical damage. Soul Reaver's in contention, can't take any more losses. When are we going to fast 9? Are we sacking one more? That is absolute madness.
Oh man, sacking one more is either an overconfident approach or a very good decision to make. I mean, we have the HP. If we get wiped by a team, we could potentially get to like very close to single digits. We probably do have an extra life, but why mess around with that, right? Soul Reaver at 16 HP has tier 1 units in the back line and front line. When our tank is just a Thief's Glove Silas, things can be a little bit difficult, but Soraka should be able to keep us alive at least for a couple units to fall. I might have spoken too soon because scoped weapons is for coming from the other side, and at that point, the backline doesn't really matter because the melee units can get there anyway, and this rocket can help, but not enough.
Is he dead?
Nope.
Oh, just a couple more units if he lost by. Soul Reaver's affected at 1 HP. So now the Fast 9 has 2 elements of it. Soul Reaver needs to build a stable board and needs to find Soraka. Otherwise, he is done. Stage 4 Carousel is also really pivotal for everyone trying to complete their items. Wage and Iverson, very healthy so far. But his itemization with the Mana Zane is not ideal. He's just using it temporarily because that's the best case that he could have. Soul Reaver goes for immediately the tier on the Yasuo. And I want to see if Soul Reaver can do this because this is going to be one of the most difficult Fast 9s I have seen yet in TFT short competitive history.
Yeah, and if he's able to do it, it's going to be historical, in my opinion. So the last time we saw someone try to go for this, they got the dragons, got 8th. We need to get Soul Reaver to have those Ascended Dragons, get those extra stats, and potentially win out. I've seen it happen. You can win out in single-digit HP if you're able to get there. Renzer now 3 stars to Seraphine, and that was already going to be that Graves comp. Soul Reaver. Here's the pivot. Let's see if it's going to be enough.
Just needs some kind of carry. Finds Aurelion Soul. That's the most important thing. That's a 2-star Terra. Those frontline problems already solved. And most importantly with this, you want to make sure your frontline is good so that way you can stall. Is it Aushin or is it Aurelion Soul? I can see a case for both. It depends a lot on the lobby context. Gets every unit in. Has 2 Thieves Gloves with Lucky Gloves. Going to use Shioyu temporarily as a frontliner. Shiv, Bloodthirster, Shojin, Archangels. He has done it. That is one of the cleanest Fast 9s you'll ever see.
Yeah, and the only bad thing that really happened was the Shroud onto our Aurelion Soul. So let's see if it's going... Oh, that is going to get to that cast, and that is that Ao Shin getting through the shields. Bardolt goes through, and there it is. There is that 9. 4 HP and a dream for Soul Reaver.
God. Wait, Soul Reaver just sold his Soraka. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think at 4 HP, you have to play as if you can that other people are going to match your power eventually. Jace is great, get that extra stats. Rips the Tome, gets a Mystic Emblem. That is really strong. But, in my opinion, I feel like that could be something that haunts him. If he wins out, great. I'll eat my words. But I'm kind of a wuss, and I want to make sure to get my health back in tow.
Yep, I agree. I mean, we saw how that actually won a lobby for DQA twice yesterday. Unfortunately, we don't have DQA here today, but we know that Soraka can bring you back from the brink, and sometimes it's that extra unit, right? You get 2 more HP, and then you end with 2 HP to get an extra round, right? This is a Siphon 2 with an Edge of Night as well. And that's going to be the special version.
Oh, the Siphon!
And we do get into the back line onto the Aushin, but the Bardolt is going to delay this just a little bit more. The Siphon isn't going to charge the Aushin once again, but the Aushin is already really small. One more ult from Aushin should give this an opportunity to win that round. We got to get there first, and we don't! We are eliminated. Soul Reaver in 8th place. That makes things for Wajian and Sag a little bit easier, as we know we're guaranteed at least a 7th. And, honestly, for confidence, that does feel good.
Yeah, at this point, it's just pretty much someone else's loss is their gain. Sully has that Diamond Hands Aurelion Soul and somehow has been stabilizing it, either a combination of good matchmaking or just being able to have really strong setups for this. Needs to find healing for his Aurelion Soul. That's the most important thing. You can see that he's passing a lot of viable items. This is actually something you could take. Take a Gunblade. You could play Redemption and Stoneplate. Ends up going for it. Excellent pickup here for Sully. And slowly but surely putting together the pieces of potentially making that deep run. And he has 61 gold. So he can go to 9. Has an extra dragon ready with the Namzi on the bench.
Wow.
Keep your eye out for this Sully TFT guy. I think low-key could be making his way to regionals. Just needs to survive a couple of fights. gets to 9, get that 6th dragon in, and the rest is history.
Yep, just like Soul Reaver, who's all their dragons are back in the pool too. That's going to help Sully, who is on fire. And once this gets online, because this Dragon Soul is going to come online a little earlier because it was the second augment, we've been able to plan for it this whole time. We're going up against Trickpea, who is going Soy Fin. Some good Siphon items there. RFC is a little interesting, but we got the Bloodthirster, and we're going to get some attack speed. It's all about where the Siphon goes to school. We're going to make it into the back line. Heals because of the Hex Tech as well. There's a little bit of a swapperoo here with the Zippy as well. Is this going to be a loss for our friend Sully? Depending on this Shi-OU here, Zippy gets stuck. Siphon gets into the back line, but doesn't bite the Aurelion Soul right away. Not enough damage on that particular ult. Oh, Siphon runs away. One more ult here. Almost takes everyone out and does. Hex Tech, Gunblade, Rabadon's Diamond Hands difference, if I say so myself.
Absolutely is, and it kind of shows why Aurelion Sol is becoming one of the main ways people want to carry their late game. I think a lot of people say it's the Ao Shin show, and Aurelion Sol actually is more than capable of holding their weight. In fact, a lot of players even prefer it depending on the board, and Aurelion Sol does way better into clumped units that are, melee oriented because they all tend to batch around it, and it's a little bit more difficult for Ao Shin to get the cast off due to the mana nerf. Finds our Aurelion Sol pair. Duplicator, and now we are online. Sully TFT is coming for that regional spot.
Talk about a really good play, ignoring Ao Shin's, right? Investing into this Aurelion Soul instead. And the other thing that's really great about this Aurelion Soul is going to survive the bite because of the Diamond Hands is the damage all happens at once, right? With Ao Shin, it's kind of clipped. It happens every once in a while. With this unit, it's all at once, and that's why these wins can come so surprisingly. And the damage does get more intense, and the AoE gets bigger after, I think, 20 seconds in the match. So that's why so much damage from that Aurelion Soul popped through and will continue to pop through, as the reason why this lobby's numbers have gotten so close is because of Sully and that win streak.
Sully's 2 points behind Wajan Iverson's Sag. So if he gets first, that should put him there because he's going to be having more points than Wajan Iverson's Sag because only one of them can get second. So that's a really, really big deal. So Sully has to go first to guarantee a spot, and with that, he should be. By the way, Evoker Namzi really clutch to be able to get that extra mana for that 6th dragon buff. Let's check in on some other people around the conversion to see whether or not Renzer can get it with that early Seraphine 3. Now, he got an early Seraphine 3, but this lobby is entirely bananas at this point. There's so many strong boards. Look at iLucky with that Guild Deja 2 wailing on the front line. Seraphine tries to play a stall game. Deja welcomes the stall game. The front line just cracks a little bit too quickly there for iLucky. And iLucky is looking like a bot 4 right now as Renzer able to win that crucial matchup. Everyone's scrapping together to see what they can put together.
Oh, goodness.
Wajan Iverson takes a critical loss and now is in danger of going bot 4.
Will the player of what I would consider of the weekend even make it to the final 2 spots? That 8th place last game is going to live in Wajan Iverson's memory for the rest of the set, up probably until the next time he's able to compete in a tournament if we do miss out. That is a straight up fumble at the end of the day. Spicy Appy is playing the best spoiler I think I've seen in the last year, potentially going 1-1 the last 2 lobbies after being mathematically eliminated. But all eyes are still on Sag, 35 HP, 2nd place. That is not very high, but right now I think I agree with you, Dan. Sully, especially with the Evoker Namzi, seems to be in the driver's seat and has been since he was in 7th place with this comp. 29 HP should be enough. And like you said, a first from Sully or anyone else who was 2 points below is enough because a 3rd place will eliminate whoever that is, if it's Sag or Wajan. So again, stakes upon stakes upon stakes.
Wajan Iverson hits Yasuo too. Oh no, iLucky's going up against the 6th dragon board from Sully, who has also since been able to add more resources to the front line. And this is just a Deja 2 versus 6 dragons. It is just not fair fight whatsoever. This Deja's trying to best clean up a couple of these units, and Zippy is stalling. I just don't think that we have a way to deal with this Aurelion Soul. We lost our damage source. We have lost our ticket to regionals. Trickpea also goes out. And now the path has just gotten that much smaller. The door has become almost shut for some of these players here because it's just so hard. And Spicy Happy's still holding strong. Olaf 3 has come into the mix. Spicy Appies has turned into spoiled Appies. What is he doing? He is disrupting this entire lobby.
Oh, man. Honestly, I'd probably wear that like a badge of honor after a game like this. And we had a crazy day yesterday, barely making it in. Started 8th, made it to the final day, and we might finish 1-1. But looking at this back line, we thought that this Mana Zane would be good or fine in the early game, but have a harder time once these units get stronger in the front line. And it seems like that is the case. We just won our first game in the last 4 rounds on that last go-around. So we are stuck on the Volibear right now. Kaisa doing a lot of damage, but it's really all up to this Olaf and Yone to get there eventually. Olaf should be turned into this Kaisa here pretty shortly, but no, is going to get the rest of the group instead, and now it's a race to get to the Kaisa, and there it is. Is the Olaf going to take it? Yes, they will, as Weijin will take this loss. It is a 2-unit loss, and Renzer is in single-digit HP, an elimination station. Everyone here except Appy is technically still alive in the standings as well, so every elimination is an elimination from regionals. If you are Weijin and you're getting 3rd place, if you're Sag and you get 3rd place, things can go crazy. Spicy Appy's finally not necessarily leading the whole lobby, but this is close, Dan.
It's probably because Spicy Happy played against Sully. I'm pretty sure Sully wins this lobby, which means it's just really who's going to get that 2nd spot unless something miraculous happens. If someone gets, an incredible, like if Renzer gets Graves 3 out of nowhere, I'm pretty sure Weijin Iverson is capped. I just don't know how he can get stronger, and I think that would mean that unless something miraculous happens on his end, he is unlikely to join us at regional as well. We talked about Graves 3. There's 7 Graves, but Renzer has Sully in his pool. It's between Sully and Weijin Iverson, and he is begging, pleading, DMing Mortdog, please. Let me play Weijin Iverson. Sully just hit a tier 2. This is getting absolutely bananas. There's no way for him to beat Sully's board, so he has to pray and hope for Weijin Iverson.
Is it going to happen? It is Weijin Iverson, so this could be an elimination game for Renzer. Will Weijin be able to overcome the last couple losses? Just one win in this in Stage 5. Stage 6 needs to be totally different. We do have that Kaisa still. That's been a Kaisa 3 since Stage 3. But has been falling off since. We have a Diamond Hands on this board too, but the Diamond Hands isn't going to be enough to keep that alive. Kaisa, though, doing the damage. We're starting to get to her. Seraphine 3 is up towards her. The melees are up onto that Kaisa. Is this going to be it for Weijin version? No, but we do have one more life. Will Weijin Inversion waste a 3-point bonus coming into today after winning a couple lobbies? And will they miss out on regionals? What a heartbreaking situation that could be.
Well, we just got another curveball thrown at us because Sajas had also lost. So it could come down to the head-to-head. Weijin Iverson's playing Sully! What a terrible time for matchmaking to decide your fate and let you know what's going to happen. Sometimes I don't want Future Sight. A frontline Kaisa. You're trying to target the Aurelion Soul. A huge gamble. Will it work? Will it work or will it pay off?
This is the risk. This is the gamble, and this is potentially the last round for Weijin Inversion. Came in with the lead and might leave with just a little bit of cash. This Kaisa has gotten into the back line, doing damage to that Aurelion Soul, but there's just enough there. Kaisa's Weijin Inversions weekend is potentially done as well. Sag at 4 HP gets into 3rd place, gets the 2 points over Weijin. So Sag feels pretty good about it. Yep, it should be Sag and Sully who's going to win the lobby. How funny would it be if it was Appy's?
Well, not only that, we have our 2 players joining us at regionals. Congratulations to Sully and Sag. Because Sully is going to win this lobby, most likely, because I just can't imagine Spicy Happy's doing it. And now he's going to be able to, they've leapfrogged Weijin. Sag has outplaced Weijin Iverson. And Renzer needed to go first and outplace these players. So we have our 2 players joining us in the North American regionals.
What a way to do it from Sully. I want everyone to be reminded that Sully was at 29 HP very early. Barely even got to these dragons, but we got here, and the second we locked him in, we have not lost since. This is a beautiful moment for Sully and Sag, so congratulations. But we aren't done yet. Spicy Appy still competing to play a little bit more spoiler. Any points up also can increase our prize pool if you're Spicy Appies, so you're feeling pretty good about that too. So that's going to be at least a second. Sag feels great about that because Weijin finished 2 points below. Whew, man, that was tense, Frodan. I love TFT, and Sully loves this game too, I'm sure. Coronation probably to the end of the game towards this win.
I'm sure Sully is a bigger fan of Six Dragon than any other person currently on the North American server. A victory lap, a coronation moment here for Sully, going up against another Sully. In fact, these are two Sullys that are on the North American server are regularly pushing those top ranks. And it's only fitting that Spicy Appies gets to crown him as well, because Appies was the first player to tell me that Sully TFT is cracked. And if you're sleeping on him, you're asking to get hurt. So here we go, what should be the last fight of this tournament, unless Spicy Appies once again spoils it.
All right, are we going to get some spoilers, or are we going to get the crown? Sully TFT versus Appies, and potentially the last round of the LCQ. Lots of damage going on. This Olaf is taking that damage, but this Diamond Hands Aurelion Soul should be good enough. Was it enough damage here to end the game here? Yes, it is, and Sully gets the crown. Was it enough for first place? We'll see against Sag. But like you said, Sully and Sag are our last two qualifiers for the North American